computer. It's been really good for me, but recently just had a very big problem. As you can see here, the screen has gone dead. Now, the interesting solution to this problem is that there are certain pressure points along the corners where you can instantly fix it. You can see all I did was press my thumb down here in the right hand side of the screen, and suddenly voila, it works. But then now that I've let go and I'm no longer putting that pressure on the screen slowly begins to fade away and no longer work. So another one of those old pressure points was over here, and as a result there's a little bit of body damage, mostly because of a combination of the vent being right there and a lot of the other high temperature areas there. Obviously high temperature plus the convenience of pressing here to make the screen start working again didn't go together very well. So granted, I've had aesthetic problems with computers before, and I'm not too worried about aesthetics problems. I like the fact that this computer is fast, reasonably fast enough for me, has 4 cores, pretty good graphics, and from my experience, pretty operational. But we all know HP's actual service department is absolutely terrible, probably just as bad as Dell's. In any case, so start by taking out the battery. Definitely don't want to mess around with a computer that still has power. Not a good idea. So let's go ahead and do that. What we have here is a problem that's very particular, so I just want to kind of demonstrate how I go about solving it from the very beginning. I have never opened this already, or I haven't done any pre-testing or anything like that. I'm just showing you what goes through the mind of a typical engineer who is trying to solve his computer problems. So first we can just start by taking out these little screw covers and then taking out the screws. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and I'm going to need to go ahead and turn off the camera in order to do that better without scratching everything up with this screwdriver. Maybe I can do it just one-handed. Yeah, as I have said, aesthetic problems don't bother me at all. Okay, so this is cross-tipped, so let's go and unscrew it here. And here. Now, obviously, this is kind of a risky thing to do if you've got any kind of reasonable assurance regarding your computer, some kind of warranty, etc. and so forth. I don't recommend doing this. But if you've got screen problems and you learned something from this video, then all good for you. I hope that's exactly what happens, that anybody else with a similar problem doesn't want to have to rely on HP to solve their problem, can simply watch this video and say, ah, there's an easy solution. Okay, so making it come off at this break point is kind of a nice spot to start since it's already broken. And I can just go ahead and put my fingers in here. Pretty much it's just, reasonable fingernails, which I don't actually have, but just good enough to be able to do what needs to be done. Okay. Go start over on the other side here. sure what's going on down here. Top seems to come off pretty reasonably well. Obviously the camera is kind of, one of the many problems with taking off the top. The sides come off quite easily, but the bottom here seems to have its own little issues. It really doesn't want to come off. Oh, there we go. I think that's just hard enough to pull. Okay. So that was quite a bit of a tear off there. Okay. Yeah, that seemed a bit more difficult than it should have been, but okay. So now what we're looking at here is the most likely spot where the wire is having problems, and I guess ultimately we could turn it back on just to watch it work and see if we see any like sparks fly. Or you can see what we see here. Try and get a better view of it. See if we can't see anything that's obviously wrong. And it is clearly a very particular problem. So what that problem is needs to be cleared up. Okay, so it could be that this connection here is the bad connection. Obviously that's where the pressure point was that was fixing it, so it seemed logical that one of these wires is broken. However, what this looks like is a power connection, and the reason why is because it has a black and red wire here, and usually red stands for the higher DC power, while black stands for the lower voltage DC power. So there would be a positive potential going from the red to the black line. However, that's what's coming out. What's going in is orange and brown, right? I guess you could say an orangish brown type color. Not really sure what those colors are. I don't know if a closer image might help identifying them. Of course, this camera isn't working very well. So I can't get a good image, but maybe I try and use the opticals in. Not really sure what we could classify these colors as. The camera isn't making it any more clear than my eyes. There really do seem to be some brownish type color. So one idea is to turn it on and see if slight adjustments to this actually do cause the entire screen to change so dramatically. The other option is to just simply assume that this probably isn't really where the problem is, due to the fact that this is clearly a power cord and not information cord, which is what appears to be the problem from the adjustment of the monitor. It appears to be more of an information problem than a power problem. You see a constant light coming out of the screen. What changes is the pixelation, so it would stand to reason that it's something over here. However, it's odd that the actual place of adjustment is here. So how do we resolve this problem? Well, we could do a live test, which is kind of dangerous. We could also unscrew these and actually try and take a closer look at the monitor itself. We unscrew these sets here, which are crossed up as well, so stand to reason that it should come out pretty easily. You can see up here is our video of sorts camera. I guess video camera of sorts. I'm not really sure. There it is. That little teeny pinhole. That's it. So that's the video camera, and the audio receivers should also be in this area. I would think that it's that, and then there's a second audio receiver here. That would make sense to me, but not really 100% sure on it. And I've heard a lot about this connection here. I'm gonna get a zoom in on it. See those colors there? Yeah, there we go. Those colors are definitely data lines. Okay, so they're going into this system, and I've heard that, you know, that connection comes loose. Now this is a good opportunity, I think, since my camera and microphone haven't been working, and I haven't really cared that much because I don't really use them. But I could probably just, you know, double check that and go ahead and see if it actually did get pushed loose. Yeah, that would appear to be further in. Now, I don't know, I don't have an expert in front of me, but about as close as one's gonna get for the 10-mile radius. So that's that. I may just go ahead and do a test because I don't want to have to unscrew, let's see, 6 or 7 screws here. We got 3 screws on each adjusting arm, and or 4 screws actually in total. And so, you know, then we have one up here too that we would also have to remove. That should take time, but we'll see. So let's go ahead and turn this baby on and see what happens. Okay, so we can see a clear mess up. Now I'm going to do something extremely dangerous that nobody should do ever. Not at home, not at work, nowhere. I'm going to slightly mess with these and see if that changes the way of the screen. Yep, makes no difference, or it doesn't appear to make any difference, at least from this perspective. Now on the other hand, we can assume that this is safely ground, and so if I put pressure here, does that fix my problem the way it did before? Well, no. There it goes. Yeah, so it does. And there's my boot screen. Okay. So clearly that does fix the problem. So there's something on the other side of this screen that we need to get to find out what's going on. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those screws and we'll see what's there. And you can see the screen's already fading away. The information is fading away. How disappointing. Okay, so this is a unique feature with the DV6, HP DV6. It's clear that the back part of the screen can just simply fall down while the screen itself can remain connected to the main PC component, which is still fully capable of operating, most likely, while under this condition. So this would give me a good testing ground to see what might be wrong. My guess is that since this information wire right here happens to be in about the area where I was pressing, it would stand to reason that that's what's probably loose. Or perhaps some other problem is occurring and pressure in that area fixes it. So I'll see what I can do. But the interesting part I wanted to note was the way these hinges work. Very intriguing. The information flows in here, so you know it's coming in through this hinge here. And to get a better look at it, you can see it from this angle here. It's pretty neat neat hinge, and I can kind of adjust the position of the screen to see how the hinge moves. So the hinge would move up like that as you close it, and it would be able to remain intact. All of this stuff coming straight out of the motherboard and main part of the machine. Obviously this also has some information lines coming out of it, but I think those go mostly to the speakers and camera, etc. and so forth. The camera. We can see here, this is the antenna for the wireless communications of the computer. So these two pieces here, this one here, and then that one over there, are used to communicate wirelessly in some way. I'm not sure why they need to take that form. I would have thought that they wrapped all the way around the edge, but there is nothing over here, so yeah, no wires, it's just blank. So I'm guessing that's probably because of the vent I pointed out earlier. This entire area gets really quite hot, and mostly, obviously, it's probably got most of the video processing area there, so not too surprising that it would get warm. And it's the vent, so that's where all the heat finally exits the computer. And so in general, it'd be wise not to put any kind of electronics along this side here. Okay, I have now observed that this chip, nor anything connected to it, is the source of my problem. This is very bad news for me. It would be easy to fix a small connection, or possibly even to make sure all the soldering on this chip is correct. But that's clearly not my problem, because no matter how I try and fiddle with this chip, it does not have the effect that simply pressing right here does. As a matter of fact, I can pretty much take the chip entirely off the back of the screen, press right there, and my problem is solved, even though the chip is not connected to the screen. So clearly the chip has nothing to do with it. You know, one would think if it did, the chip would need to be connected to the screen while you pressed on that position to fix your problem. You can see how the screen is starting to fade away, and in order to fix this fade away, I press right here. Boom. Problem gone. So, something about putting the pressure right there fixes the problem. Still trying to figure out what that might be. So, I guess we'll get deeper into it. Okay, so I am doing the unthinkable now. I am removing the screen from the computer. You can see that there's no wires now connected to the screen in any way. I'm going to unscrew these 4 screws, and the other 4 screws corresponding on the other side. And the screen should, the screen itself, the LCD itself, should pop right out, and I'll get a chance to kind of look at it from all aspects. I believe that what might be going wrong is the pins connecting here to this system are, I guess you could say, the digital lines, possibly not even digital, probably more analog lines. Obviously analog lines connecting here that are going to the LCDs themselves, high frequency data, I'm sure. So very touch sensitive. I think they're coming over to this side, and when they flip around at some point in time, they don't make full contact. So somewhere going from there over to here, it doesn't make full contact. I need to see where it's actually touching the LCD itself. And this is going to require that I just simply remove the screen. So, okay, well, here goes a difficult task, but a fun one at that. Alright. Oh, okay, so I've removed the screen entirely and removed most of the tape that was holding a lot of the screen together, I'm guessing. It's kind of interesting what they have here. Apparently whatever kind of liquid crystal they're using has multiple input devices of some sort. In case perhaps they're just extra access points of some kind, I don't know. And this is essentially what you get. Fully just the entire thing. The LCD is basically what makes it all work. We have a screw here that still needs to be removed, and a screw here. Just wanted to make sure that we got a chance to see that. Everything else seems to be, once those two screws are removed, you can pretty much slide this entire plastic component out and hopefully get a better look at the LCD liquid crystal ribbons directly. As you might say, ribbons, or multiple other ways of describing what puts this all together, but I don't want to get into those details right now. Okay, so if you remember correctly, there's a metal piece that goes around the entire screen, and you can see the other side of this metal piece right here as it focuses. Essentially along this edge, you can kind of pull that metal piece away and allow the screen to separate. And there it is along that edge, and you can see it clips. The metal piece kind of clips onto the screen itself. So once you can get this whole big long metal piece, big square metal piece off, then we can go ahead and start separating the layers of the screen and examine which ones might be broken. So we get a chance to see each layer possibly. Alright, so here it is. I don't want to get any dirt. Okay, so this is everything from the laptop itself to the tools that were used. This paper is probably going to be used. My plan is to place the paper right about in this area before putting back on the metal piece. I'm going to put some paper right there. This is the metal piece that goes over it, holds the screen together and the multiple layers together. There's obviously a lot of layers here, each one with different polarizations to allow different color lights to come through. And so obviously these analog high frequency lines are going to go control the polarization of the top layer here. And here's the screws and the components that were used. So that's, to hold it all together. So I'm just going to clean everything off, and obviously it's gotten dirty over the years for various reasons, and then put it all back together and put some paper over that pressure point that apparently needs to be pressed in order to get this to work. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, so just so we're up to date on what I'm doing here, I've cleaned the screen mostly, and my plan is to find where the pixels begin and where they end, and you can probably see that if it focuses correctly. There's a nice little line where you can see the pixels start to begin, and right there is where I want to It's where I want to put the tape right up against that line. Put the paper and the tape right up against that line. So we put the tape there, and we should be able to get this thing working again. After the metal piece goes back on, there'll be constant pressure in that area, and that constant pressure will allow for this thing to continue to operate, hopefully. Okay, for those that are interested, I have observed here the different layers. You can actually see the bulb at this point, the white bulb. It's big line actually, and it's rather flexible. And it's what's actually giving the power, or the light, the optical power to this entire device. And then what we have here is two layers of diffusers that kind of diffuse the light in all directions. And then down here, this is the polarization layers. I'm not sure how they're organized, but I'm quite sure that there's polarization on the first layer, and then obviously controlled polarization on the second layer, and polarization on the third layer, and inside this one single layer, which obviously has electronics going into it. So clearly it's electrical signals going in there. So it's the layer that actually does the polarization for various colors. It's pretty neat to see all of this actually coming apart, but obviously it took some time. I hope this video is worth it. Okay, so before I put the screws back in to hold the metal frame in place, I wanted to just show where I was at. Put the screen back in the metal frame, and I'm going to need to put those screws back in. And you can actually still see the tape here. That basically is going to provide the pressure. Once everything is screwed back into place and tightened down, it should add some extra pressure to that component on the LCD. So hopefully that'll fix it. Okay, so now I have put the screws back on, the 4 screws that hold the monitor to the computer, and stick them with the other side. So that's where they actually go. So in order to put them in, you actually have to reattach, unless of course you take off the bars here, which I did not do. I couldn't really find an easy way to remove the bars that hold the monitor to the computer. So those 2 bars basically take the frame, and they hold the frame on there. And the frame to the monitor, obviously the monitor goes inside the frame, the metal frame. And so let's go ahead and try it for the first time and see what happens. And there we go. Okay, it's an HP, it's working, it's doing what it's supposed to. Okay, so this really is a temporary fix. Obviously it's not a real fix to the problem. Obviously a real fix would just simply be replacing the entire LCD, which would probably be this entire frame and everything inside of it. I don't think I could actually ask them just for the liquid crystal layer. I don't think the answer is yes, that is being sold in stores. So I think online stores probably would sell the general size and same specs, probably same connection process, the same connection process used here. Oh, and yeah, I definitely don't recommend using post-its on the back here. I'm just use that temporarily so I wouldn't touch any of the components while I was installing it. So you can use them temporarily, but yeah, once you start actually using the computer again, probably don't want to do that. So let's power it off just so that it doesn't catch fire or anything like that. Okay, so that's about it. Just definitely a temporary fix, not a real one, but it'll do for me for now. If you want to find out what eventually happens, you'd have to follow my channel or get to know me. So anyways, that was an interesting problem and a rather awkward solution. So so much for that. Good fun, but a lot of time consumed. Probably about an entire day just sitting around taking this thing apart. Half a day really, but in any case, hopefully this video will mean something to somebody somewhere, so maybe it'll all be worth it. Okay, nice Saturday. Alright, till the next video. Okay, so I put the back on and screwed in, well, the important screws on the connectors. So yeah, and there's Immunet, seems to be operational, letting me know that it's connecting to the cloud and searching for new viruses. Okay, any case, this is basically our new finished work here. Screws in the corner put in, everything's pretty much operational. The only thing I now need to do is come up with a solution for that. I think that probably just some electrical tape there would be fine, just temporarily. We're talking about somewhere along this edge here is going to be exposed otherwise if I don't put some tape there. So it's not like it's terrible bad or anything, it's just, you know, aesthetics once again, aesthetics. But yeah, for the time being, looks like everything works quite nicely. Don't need to put pressure here anymore. That's nice. Definitely jerry-rigged system, not really not really a system that's permanent or anything. Okay, so this is the final completed work. Went ahead and put everything in. You can see here the electrical tape holding that broken part together, and you can also see down here in the corner there's a bit of visible tape there. You know, it's not too big of a deal. I don't mind it being there. I'm not a big aesthetics guy, but at least, you know, when I turn on my computer I can actually see everything. So that's a plus. Turning around to the side here, probably the most difficult part is getting all of this lined up when you put the plastic piece back onto the metal part, the metal backing. This metal backing is very stable, but the plastic part is really just kind of an aesthetic component. You don't really need it for the operation of the computer, as I have proven in many different ways. And the joints are still fully operational, or appear to be as such. And you know, for an overall perspective, this computer, you know, just a financial decision based on this computer is worth about $1,000 to me right now. Market price would be about $500 or so, but obviously I've made some additions, hardware additions, so the increase in RAM space and the hard drive being an SSD, those kinds of things are pretty nice to me and important to me. So it runs, you know, reasonably fast, and I need to have a computer that is got all my data on it. So the total value, I would say, to me is $1,000 or so. But what was the value of actually changing out the screen? It took me about a half a day, maybe a little bit longer than half a day, so around 5 hours or so to do this. So 5 hours, and roughly I could have just bought another screen, but I still would have had to uninstall or install it. So uninstall the old one, install the new one. Still would have taken me time, and so from a pure financial standpoint, I would say it was probably worth it. It's only a temporary fix, I suppose. You know, at some point in time I am going to have to actually buy a replacement screen, but it's good to know what's in there. If I ever do purchase a replacement screen, I know how to take it apart and know what to do. Hopefully it'll take me less time. So there's that. And then there's also the fact that I'm recording this and can hopefully put it on YouTube or some other place, and other people can get to know me a little bit better and what I like to do with my time. Okay, so I guess that's everything. And now that you've basically seen what I've used and what I've done, anybody who's kind of interested in this sort of thing can now see, you know, how simple and how easy it is to conduct something like this. Okay, so good luck to anybody who's trying. It's definitely, my situation is definitely jerry-rigged, definitely not something I would recommend anybody do, but if you wanted an example of what would happen if you tried, there's an example. So good luck.